What a game. What a game. What a game. What a game. The Bolts are taking this one to game 6. They're taking it home to the slushy Amalie Arena as they end up winning game 5. This game had everything. It had questionable icing calls. It had too many men on the ice. It had a ton of penalties missed against and for both teams. Controversy out controversy, at least if you ask the fans, and it had a big Lightning victory at the end. Ondrej Vasilevskiy stands on his head. The only way to beat him is pucks that end up redirecting off players. Don't worry, we'll end up talking about that. This was an incredibly close game. This is an incredibly close series. We're going to talk about all the highlights, the goals, and the storylines heading into 6, so let's do it right now. The first thing to stand out is a very simple thing. I've seen a lot of deflections for Colorado that ends up going off Colorado players. They are fortunate bounces that end up beating Vasilevskiy in the last 2 games. There may be some fans out there talking about lucky bounces, if you will, but there's no lucky bounces when you're putting 37 to 40 shots on net over and over. Why? Players go to the net on purpose. Players put pucks on the net on purpose. Players put pucks through traffic and through junk, and that is what the Colorado Avalanche have done in the last 2 games in the entire series. And when you're overwhelming your opponent with shots like this, eventually one is going to break the dam and end up going in. So there is no luck. There is only skill and the opportunity to capitalize on that skill and the opportunity to recognize what you are doing to create those bounces, and that's what ends up happening for the Avalanche in this series. They are just overwhelming the Bolts with offense. But conversely, on the other side, the Tampa Bay Lightning are doing exactly what we said they were going to do in our series preview. We said they were going to clog up the neutral zone. Check. And they've done that in both their wins. And they've done that in both games that they ended up losing in overtime. We said they would use their veteran presence. That's a term we use to say they're going to be a little bit chippy. They're going to be a little bit dirty. They're going to bend the rules to their favor to the best of their ability, and they're going to try to take advantage of it. Check. They've done that as well. They are going to score with their opportunities and their chances. Although they may be limited in less than the Avs, they have the talent to put those in. Check. They've done it. And Ondrej Vasilevskiy will stand on his head. Check. They've done it. So we have the team with better skill, the star-studded roster, overwhelming force of the Colorado Avalanche just putting boatloads of shots against Tampa Bay. We have Tampa Bay doing the little things right, and we have a game 6. This is very similar to the series in St. Louis, where it ended up being game 6 that the Colorado Avalanche ended up beating the St. Louis Blues at home in order to move on through and forward. The Avs are a juggernaut on the road, but the only team they've lost to is the Tampa Bay Lightning. The other key about this series is, regardless of the overwhelming shot count or the fact that I personally think, and I think if you're watching the series, you may feel it, from a statistic standpoint, an eye test, you know the Avalanche are outplaying, and I put that in quotes, so I'll talk about why in a second. They're outplaying the Bolts in all ends of the ice, and that is because of their speed, their dominance, their system, their structure. They're just a better team all around. But that is subjective because this game has a multitude of factors, and within those multitude of factors, the veteran presence, the adjustments of Jon Cooper, and the calm and coolness of the Tampa Bay Lightning are able to withstand these rushes. And let's think about it. We are only 2 goals going the other way in overtime for this series being over in favor of the Bolts. This series is this close. So even though you may go, hey, the hyper-skilled Colorado Avalanche have dominated in most games, most periods, and most situations, they haven't really, because at the end of the day, the score sheet is what matters, and the Tampa Bay Lightning have found ways to get this done. Now, this has not happened since 1942 when the Toronto Maple Leafs came back from down a 3-1 series lead. But you know what? Throw the history books away and throw the first 5 games away, because all that matters now is game 6. And you know that is what Jon Cooper and the Bolts are telling themselves. You know that's what Jared Bednar and the Colorado Avalanche are telling themselves. The statistics, the stories, the history, what happened in the past has nothing to do with what is going to happen in game 6 in Amalie Arena. So you can assure yourself that both teams are going to be ready to take it to each other. One will be fighting for their lives. The new kids on the block, the Colorado Avalanche, will see the cup in the house again, and it'll be interesting to see if they have the same amount of nerves and nervous energy that they had in game 5 and game 6. Once you've seen the cup once you've heard the roar of the crowd, once you've been in that scenario, you eventually calm down. Humans adjust to stress levels. So I do believe the Colorado Avalanche seeing the cup in the house, I believe they were stressed. I believe trying to win it in front of a home crowd brings stress. But now you're on the road. The pressure is off. You have a 2-game, I don't know what you want to call it, cushion in order to win the cup. I think those nerves will dwindle down. The professionals on that team have won at all levels. They've won before. They know how to do it. So I think the Colorado Avalanche are not going to have any nervous energy going into game 6. And we know the Tampa Bay Lightning aren't. They have won too many cups. They've been to the dance too many times. They don't feel the pressure. They don't feel the pressure of the past. They just take it one shift at a time. The other thing that's crazy about this game is I was hearing stories and seeing the prices of the tickets for Colorado. Colorado's got an amazing fan base. It is unbelievable that it's about $1,500 US to get into the upper bowl. Hey, that makes sense to see the cup. It's a once in a lifetime experience. But oh boy, stories of people giving up their life savings to get into arena. Look, folks, hockey is great. Hockey is amazing. Loving your team is amazing. But do not spend your life savings on a game. For pity's sakes, what a story I was hearing there. It's great to be an amazing fan, but don't forget, at the end of the day, these are millionaires. They'll get through it. I know you want to see it. It's a chance to be part of history. We got to live, right? There's mortgage and rainy day funds for a reason. So, hey, I'm not your financial advisor. This is not financial advice, legal advice, or medical advice, but just my 2 cents. Don't spend your life savings on a game. But what you can do is you can go down below and click that free button that says subscribe and join us here on Hot Garbage Sports. You heard me say last video, we've passed 10,000 subscribers. Banana sandwich. Amazing. Thank you all so much for doing that. Go down, press the like button. You guys have been doing amazing with that. I wish they showed the amount of likes and dislikes still. Like even as a content creator, the fact they took it off, I think is crazy because we have been hovering around 97, 98%. And that is bananas on a hockey channel. Usually there are fans from the losing team when you cover that come in and just go, I don't care what you have to say, has nothing to do with the quality of your content. You don't like my team, I'm out. But that has not been the case with this. So Bolts fans have been amazing. Avs fans have been amazing. And go ahead and join our Discord. That link is down below. I want to talk to you guys during Game 6. I'm in there almost every game. The one game I've missed this playoffs was, the last game. But hey, we're covering it now. And I really love talking to Avs and Bolts fans or hockey fans of any level. So go down below. It's a crazy group of hockey dudes and gals. We want you to be a part of it. And also a big shout out to our members page here. I want to say a big hi to our buddy Vincini. Hey, I hope I said that right. If I didn't do it justice, you let me know. I forgot to include you on the last video, so I'll give you a big shout out on this video and a big thank you to all our executive and lower bowl members. You guys have been amazing. And if you want to join the coaches staff, the join button is down below. It's different from the subscribe button. And if you're liking their content, consider dropping a super thanks. It's the heart down below with the $sign for a tip. Let's go ahead and talk about this game and these goals now. So the other things people are going to talk about is the too many men on the ice penalty. That was too many men on the ice. Very simple. Last game, that wasn't too many men on the ice. I'm sorry. I thought Jon Cooper was being a bit of a baby, and I love Jon Cooper. Big supporter of him. But at the end of the day, with a game that changes on the fly, everybody was asking, Coach, what's your opinion about this? I didn't have an opinion last video because I thought it was a non-issue. The only reason it became an issue to me is because Jon Cooper pointed it out. I've seen all the videos over and over counting players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
That's two floors. Three floors. Four floors.
Whatever, man. Like, seriously. It's changing on the fly. Teams have been burnt by this. Teams have been helped by this. You have 4 referees on the ice. If they see it, they call it. If they don't see it, they don't call it. They have discretion. There's 3 to 5 feet before the bench before you can change. I thought it was a good goal by Kadri, but they end up getting nailed on it by this one right now. And you know how I know it? The player ended up leaving the bench and hard circling back to get on the bench. So he knew he had done wrong. So at the end of the day, I think they got this one right. I thought they got the last one right. It is what it is. But look, there's going to be controversy for calls on both sides. Calls, no calls, missed calls. The icing goal or the icing that ends up resulting in a goal, Nick Paul was hot about. He didn't think that was icing. You know what? Let the referees call the game. You got to battle it through because the referees can't score goals. You don't want a goal scored on you? Win the face-off. Vasilevskiy ends up having it bounce off the padding that's just below his glove. Funny little bounce that ends up going in the back of the net. We're going to break down all the goals in a minute here. The last thing I want to talk about here is the Tampa Bay power play. They went 1 for 4 and they scored with 4 forwards on the ice against 3. You don't practice 4-on-3, so it's kind of like pond hockey when you're playing there. Really nice goal by Kucherov that we're going to break down in a second, but 1 for 4 is not acceptable. They're like 2 for 17 or something like that in these finals. If you want to win a Stanley Cup, you have to score on the power play. Colorado has done their job. They didn't do their job this game. Great kills by the Bolts. They end up going 0 for 2. But if Tampa Bay can ever figure this out and wake up, especially in Game 6, like I said, what has happened in the past is not a predictor of what's going to happen in Game 6. But I have a massive prediction for this series, and that is if the Tampa Bay Lightning can start scoring on the power play regularly, if they can hold at 30 or 40%, and yeah, okay, they got 25% in this game, 1 out of 4, but I'd be looking for 2 out of 4, to be honest. I get it's 50%, but small sample size. If they can start scoring on their power plays, look out. This series could have been over if Tampa Bay could have scored on their power plays, but they can't. They're disjointed on their power plays. They look sloppy and they look slow. They don't look like the Bolts used to look. They look like a team that's played a lot of hockey. They look like a team that's frustrated with their power play, but they also look like a team that may just be getting beat by a better penalty kill. And that is because on the penalty kill, speed matters, kiddies. Speed is the most important piece on a penalty kill. And the second thing is your IQ, if you can believe it or not. It is not IQ first, then speed. You cannot make up for speed with a brain when it comes to hockey. In that sense, you can't position yourself properly on a penalty kill to make up for guys that have top end speed, especially at the top of the ice. You need to have really good positioning. You need to have that killer mentality to block shots, and you need to have speed. And the Colorado Avalanche have that on their kill. And that is a very good reason as to why the Tampa Bay Lightning power play isn't working. So as much as we all want to shred the Lightning for their power play, you really got to give a lot of props and praise to the Colorado Avalanche and their penalty kill. All right, Mikhail Sergachev doing what he does best. This is where I love Sergachev. You've heard me love him. You've heard me hate him. You've heard me rag on him. Why? Because he's young, he's a stud, he has skill, and he's a guy under a microscope. That's the way it goes. But Sergachev does exactly what he is supposed to do with the tools in his tool belt here. He uses his feet, he uses his brain, he uses his excellent passing. We call this a wheel up. So he ends up going behind the net hard, good position to puck protect right now. What you end up doing in this, you might think you're just skating and cornering, but you're not. You're using your legs and that big butt and that big body in order to keep the puck, which is on your stick, away from your player. So that player ends up reaching in, but he has no chance. You're going to go around the net here, and you're either going to make a tight quick up near the post, or you're going to end up going wide. You usually want to make that tight quick up around the post, and that is because when you go wide, you have a player that's actually just behind my head here under, that's actually going to make an easier angle and be able to pinch you off here at the boards. But whatever Sergachev does on this play, it's going to end up leading to a goal. So we watch Sergachev make that quick play around the net, and then he decides to go wide. So I don't know if you saw that there because they want to zoom in on how beautiful of a skater he is, but as Sergachev is going wide, take a look at the path that ends up getting taken here. The reason you want to make that tight quick up on the net, you might go, oh, hey, there's a man here, is because you're supporting centerman or you're supporting winger, whatever you're going to call F1. That's your guy down low. We don't play positions. We just play forward one. He's going to end up bumping out to the wall. And if your defenseman is ending up over here, he's just going to make that quick little pass and you're out of the zone. So that's why you actually want to stay tight to the post. It's not the end of the world if you go wide. I mean, you got to let the boys play. So he ends up wheeling. He stays wide and he uses that space. Take a look at the stride. He's very sure. His head is up. He's making that play. He's not worried about Landeskog. He knows he's there and he goes ahead and he thinks he's going to take a hit, but Landeskog ends up turning away. You've heard me talk about this many times now in the playoffs. If you're new here to this channel, remember, we don't finish our checks. Even in the playoffs right now, Landeskog has the ability to make a big booming check right here. But if he goes ahead and makes that check, he's not in the play. So Landeskog's a smart player. He's going to end up moving up the ice here. And he goes, you know what? No big deal. We got to move. We got to get back on defense. As that puck ends up moving up the wall, what you end up seeing is just a beautiful pass here by Corey Perry. He ends up taking that puck, high skill, off the wall. Now what we end up having is an activating defenseman. Jan Rutta is going to follow up to fill in the middle ice here, and that is exactly what you want to do. We also have a Tampa Bay Lightning. You can't see him. He's just behind my head here, so let me go ahead and move it. He's over here to the right, and that matters. Why does it matter? Because it ends up pulling players backwards. Even though these players are tight up here, you'll count and you'll see that there are 4 Colorado Avalanche way too tight around this puck, and that is what's going to end up leading to this goal. You can't allow guys to slash you through the middle or through the neutral zone up here, and you can't get too tight in a singular box because players like Corey Perry just have too much room to work with at this point. So Perry ends up moving that puck out to there, and now you can see the Tampa Bay Lightning player has done what we call buying ice. He's moved over to the right-hand side, and that forces this defenseman to make a little bit of a swivel head check. That's going to delay him. It's also going to force this defenseman to back in, and that creates a whole bunch of gap. It's going to force this Colorado Avalanche player to determine which player he's going to play, and it actually gives you a major lane here for Jan Rutta. So by moving over to the other side of the ice, you end up pulling all 5 Colorado Avalanche onto one side, and you can see that. Just draw a straight line down the middle here. Okay, there's one guy that's barely on one side of the ice, but you have 4 guys now in an absolute cluster there. So that's why we buy ice. That's why we cut across the center. And that's why we have a guy high up there who's almost cherry picking. They end up staying on side, and you can see that gap ends up costing them. And I don't know if you see this little play, but watch our defensemen's feet here right now. When defensemen have to cross over, they're in trouble. We talk about defending the dot all the time. So here's the dot. What you actually want to end up defending is you want to defend that dot to the post. So you want to be here on the dot, draw a straight line to the close post. That's where you want to have your defenseman at this point. So he ends up taking here. He has to be closer to the dot, and you want to be making C cuts. You don't want to be crossing over at this point in time. If you're crossing over, you're in a little bit of trouble. So watch his feet, cross, 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 and it's a double cross. As soon as you double cross, so he cross going this way, and then he cuts back this way and crosses, you know you're in a little bit of trouble at this point in time. And Toews is a beautiful skater, but that's just a sign that you don't have your confidence under you at this point in time. You have bad gap. Rutta ends up stepping in, and because of that double cross, is silly as it sounds, you end up giving up too much gap here, which allows Rutta to take that shot. Very simply, Kuemper should have had this puck, but there are so many cool little things to break down for you crazy nerd fans here on this channel that are like me. So lots of big things happening. Easy little clap bomb here. Kuemper should have this one. As they say, the goalie would like to have that one back and ends up sneaking in under his glove. Kuemper overall had a really amazing game, but a lot of cool things to break down there from the Avs defense and the Tampa Bay offense on that play. Now, with a minute 51 left in the first here, you're going to see that veteran presence and that calmness of the Tampa Bay Lightning. That puck ends up going in, and you take a look. It's a quick little jump puck here. I mean, I think this is an absolutely brilliant play. He ends up sticking his glove up in the air, and what he's trying to do is just bat that puck right into the corner here to keep it away. It is a very interesting quagmire of events for every player on the ice right now. He ends up bailing, missing that puck, and now what you can see is Vasilevskiy has to make a huge save. That puck is right here, and Vasilevskiy has perfect body position on that puck. That's why Vasilevskiy is so damn good. This should be a goal all day, every day. The Avalanche are behind the defenders at this point in time. There's no reason the Avalanche shouldn't score other than the fact that it's Vasilevskiy. Now, Tampa wholesales a guy here, and this is what's funny about the playoffs. This, to me, is and always will be a penalty. It doesn't matter if the puck's there or if the puck's not there, but he just wholesales him behind with a huge cross check. But I mean, take a look. That stick on back, push, goodbye, get out of here. We just call that a battle in hockey. So if you're new to the game and you're wondering why that's not a penalty, it seems to be there's a kind of an invisible circle here somewhere around the net that you can get away with a lot more here than you can anywhere else on the ice. They just call it a battle. Sometimes they call it, sometimes they don't call it. And I think it's one of the reasons people get very frustrated with hockey when they watch it. They don't understand what's a call and what's not a call. To me, you should be able to call that all day, every day, but the NHL doesn't. They never have, so it's a good no call. Sometimes it gets called, and I think that's a bad call, but it's the playoffs. It is what it is. Now you can see the puck down there. It's a loose scramble. Everybody's looking for it, and take a look at Vasilevskiy. He's got his eye on the puck. He knows exactly where it is. We talk about goalies' eyes needing to follow the puck. It's the most important part of the game. Vasi's looking for it. Nobody can find it. It kicks out here to Arturi Lehkonen, who ends up putting that off of Vasilevskiy. Look, he doesn't even see the fact that the shot comes in, but again, great position. It's not luck when you're always in good position. So take a look at Lehkonen on that puck. He ends up putting it off the big shoulder of Vasilevskiy. This is why being 6'3" matters. Here's the puck. It ends up popping up and out. And this is how the Tampa Bay Lightning end up winning games. This is why they are so frustrating to play against. Now that puck's in the corner, huge salvo. Everybody's going to end up getting up. You see the veteran presence of the cross check in front of the net that they get away with, the amazingness of Ondrej Vasilevskiy in front of the net, the high skill of the Colorado Avalanche. Amazing battle by these two teams. Nothing matters more than a face-off in hockey. Change my mind. We have seen more goals off face-offs on this channel than any other way, in my opinion. Winning draws is massive. So Tampa Bay ends up losing this draw. Nick Paul loses it. You got Colton and you got Perry here. So here's your wingers. Winger, and then you got a defenseman and a defenseman. So your D-man needs to tie up. Corey Perry needs to tie up in the center ice. Victor Hedman needs to come over here and cause a tie-up. And then what you need to see is Corey Perry needs to get out to the point as fast as he can, and Ross Colton needs to get out to the point as fast as he can. That's what needs to happen on a lost draw. What the Colorado Avalanche are looking to do on a one draw is they are looking to get it up to the point. There's two ways they're going to do it: a clean draw win over there, or a half or a neutral draw where you end up skating through, picking up this puck and bumping it out to the top defenseman. The reason you want to go to this defenseman up here, he ends up with two options. He can put a shot on net, he can put a safe puck into the corner, so he's got one, he's got two, or he can go D to D. This is the primary option. You want to go D to D and widen the zone. As soon as you widen the zone, you're going to cause confusion amongst these two wingers, you're going to cause confusion among these two defensemen, and everybody is going to have to shift, and it's going to be a problem for the defense. It's also going to cause a massive angle change for Vasilevskiy. So take a look. That puck ends up going to the secondary spot, which is the top of the circle. It doesn't end up making the primary way all the way back here to Toews, and instead of putting that puck back over to Toews, they just skip a step and they go wide over here to Cale Makar. So really great job by the Colorado Avalanche getting on pucks. My problem here is Ross Colton he's got a challenge now. Because that puck didn't cleanly go back out to the defenders, Colton has to defend the entirety of the high slot and the middle slot, and he has to make sure that people don't walk over the middle right now. That's huge. Now what you see is Nick Paul has his player, and you also have to do a little bit more if you're Victor Hedman here at this point. I think Hedman actually has to take 2 steps in and start finding a man at this point. He doesn't. Who am I to tell Victor Hedman how to play hockey? So that puck ends up moving over to Makar, and then what you end up seeing is that big blast. So that puck ends up moving over to Makar, and then what you end up seeing, because the zone is widened, is that Vasilevskiy, he's in a high stance here right now. He's trying to look over his player to find that puck. He's trying to track it down right now. That's why he's in this top high stance. And all that's going to happen is Makar's going to put a little knuckler on net, and it's just brilliant. That little knuckler should be an easy catch all day, every day for Vasilevskiy, but it bounces off of his pad here. Now all you have to do if you're Tampa Bay is tie up your players in front. But Nick Paul, unfortunately, not only loses the draw here, but bad defense. He doesn't have his head on a swivel. He doesn't find his player. He's caught flat-footed. You may be in position, but you're never in position if you don't have a stick on a player. He loses this battle. He is a very tough, physical player, Nick Paul is, but he is unable to get in there on the bigger, stronger Valeri Nichuskin. So Nichushkin ends up breaking in here and finding an ability to score a goal. That ends up beating Ondrej Vasilevskiy. Beautiful goal to make it 1-1. Now, you heard me talking a lot about the Bolts D zone there, and I always get this on this channel. You must be a Bolts supporter or an Avs supporter because you mentioned the other team more. On that particular play, and the reason you do it is there's a team that's more interesting and a team that's less interesting. The Colorado Avalanche, even though they scored the goal, is the team less interesting to break down on that play because they just did 2 very simple things. 3, correct. They won a draw. They got the puck back to the defenseman by widening the zone. They put a puck on net, and they went and got a rebound. Super simple. What are we going to break down on there? Great goal by the Avs. The Tampa Bay Lightning, there is a science to playing defense. There is a science to what you're supposed to do in your own zone. There are tactical and strategic things you need to do, both on draws, off draws, defensively, who you're tying up, where you're going, what role you have in the defensive zone. Playing defense, in my opinion, is a much harder job than playing offense in the NHL because you must do the correct thing at all times and you have to go through the sequence of events. Whereas offense, you're just trying to create time and space. You're trying to look pretty. You're trying to get the puck to the open man. As they say, puck's deep, puck's on net, baby. The puck goes in. So lots to break down there as well, too. That is why I ended up mentioning the Bolts more than the Avs. You want to talk about science? There's no science to a 4-on-3. This is just the boys playing. This is a very difficult thing to work on because it is so rare that the players really don't ever practice it. It's a ridiculous thing to practice because you just don't get the benefit out of it. Just let the skill play. So you have 4 forwards out there. Corey Perry's going to pick up this puck behind the net. Normally on power plays, you're looking to lengthen and widen the zone. That is not true with a 4-on-3. That is not true in this scenario. And what it ends up meaning, just take a look. Corey Perry ends up putting it wide. So there's a lengthen and a widening just because he's trying to find the player. But they are not trying to play in the entire offensive zone. What you're trying to do right here on a 4-on-3 is you're trying to play in a zone that's about this big, really tight. And even better still, if you can play in a zone this big. You want to play in tiny little zones and find those short little passes in order to get a good shot on net. So Kucherov ends up picking it up. The 3 players here, they have an interesting job. So your 1 player here in the middle, he has to not only take Stamkos, but he has to take the player that's behind him. He has a nearly impossible job because it's all about the seams. They're always going to have a seam open on the 5-on-3, and the question becomes who's more dangerous? Is it the player behind you or is it Steven Stamkos here? I would argue that it's the player behind you, so I think they're playing this exactly the way you need to because you have an opportunity to block this shot if you're this Avalanche player here in front of the net. You have no opportunity to block a shot if that puck ends up behind you to Corey Perry, who's on the doorstep right now. So Nikita Kucherov ends up hesitating here, and that little stick handle that he ends up making ends up freezing the player here at the top, because he has to go for the block shot at this point in time. And that little stick handle that he makes allows that puck to move over here to Steven Stamkos, giving him the room to shoot. It's the little things that Nikita Kucherov does that's huge. Moves it over to Stammer, and then take a look here. Stammer is just so darn smart. This is what I mean. Let the boys play. Go down, block the shot, turn your face away. Why wear a cage? Just take it off the teeth. Gotta look cool for the pictures. He ends up freezing him and taking him out of the play. Now this player is gone because he can't recover at this point in time. Corey Perry, what does he do? Immediately gets to the front of the net. I love that. He doesn't get in front of Kuemper. He actually goes to the right, and he goes to the right because he is expecting a rebound. He doesn't think the deflection is going to work. Perry is just too smart. He goes for that rebound. That puck, though, for Stamkos, after he freezes him, he ends up moving it back over there to Kucherov, who just bangs it in. There is nothing you can do here if you're the Colorado Avalanche when guys are just skilling you like that. You are down. It's a disadvantage. It's a tough play. You get outskilled. It's the way she goes. Nothing Kuemper's going to be able to do. Really great kill here by the Avs. I give them all the credit in the world, but an amazing power play there by Tampa Bay. Maybe they should just play 4-on-3 all the time. I got to ask you, though, as well, how good is Bowen Byram? Take a look at this. Speed kills. He ends up shredding, absolutely shredding through 4 Tampa Bay Lightning. You might say it's 3, but no. The 4th guy on the left side matters too as well. He ends up cutting through. Take a look at these cuts. If you ever wanted to know, if you haven't played this game, the type of angles these players get on their skates, we call this your inside edge or your inside blade. The fact that he is able to do this, I mean, he is well below a 45-degree angle here. It's always incredible to me that these skates can cut into the ice at this point in time. And he does this with just such speed. It is so difficult to do what he just did there on skates with a stick in your hand. Just unbelievable job by Bowen Byram. This guy is going to be a stud in the league for some time, and they already have Cale Makar on their team. Speaking of that, take a look at Cale Makar here now. What an unbelievable job. And you'll notice why he's crossing over in the offensive zone. You heard me say you don't want to cross over if you're a defender. If you're on offense, even if you're a defenseman on offense, you want to cross over and change the angle all the time. It ends up changing the gap for the defenders. By doing those few little skate through the zone, zigzags and crossovers, it forces these defenders to back up and it gives you gap. So there's a reason they do it. It doesn't just look super cool. It doesn't just help them pick up speed, because crossovers do pick up speed. It actually helps blow gap. And what you'll end up seeing is, because of that gap, he finds just enough of a hole here because he's just too fast, too good, ends up getting through them. And then we're going to see what he thinks is a penalty. So look, they're even right now. Because they're even, and because he ends up having this play, he's going to whap that stick around here, and that's going to save the goal. If the Tampa Bay Lightning player was a few feet back here, say he was here and ended up whapping it around, that would be a penalty to me. The only reason this doesn't end up getting called is because they're lateral with each other. So take a look. Bang. Yes, there could be a little bit of a reach here, but you've got a referee in what I think is very good position here right now. And I'm hard on referees, probably more so than the next guy, to be honest. I just don't waste my time on the channel talking about it. And that ends up saving the goal. Makar is able to ending up getting a shot on net anyway, so it doesn't really interfere with it. But Vasilevskiy with a beautiful poke check, just an incredible job. He is the best in the NHL at making those poke checks, right up there with Mike Smith, actually, the 2 best goalies in the NHL at poke checks. That ends up going over the ice, but incredible skill by Bowen Byram, incredible skill by Cale Makar there. Skating defensemen in today's NHL, they're vicious and they're game breakers. And you'll see here what I said at the beginning of the video. He thinks it's an absolute joke that call is not made, and he's not happy about it. I don't blame him. That's okay though, because Cale Makar ends up making up for it on this goal. Take a look at this absolutely vicious delay, just turning Chernak inside out. Stops on a dime. You can see the smoke explode. I know it's not smoke, it's snow, but still unbelievable. Looks that way. Landeskog ends up driving the net, turning open. The power winger ends up doing what he needs to do. You end up seeing that puck move over here to Cale Makar. I mean, we're going to lengthen, we're going to widen the zone, so it's a quick little delay there. You move the puck north. Landeskog drives the mid lane. Very standard play at this point in time. And now you see the hyper-skilled Makar. Just unbelievable movement on the puck here by Cale. He ends up walking in, and he's going to get a goal off of this one. You could feel it was coming at all points in time. What a awesome snapshot there by Makar. It ends up getting through a double screen. Vasilevskiy ends up making the initial save, but that puck ends up bouncing in and going in the net. They still credit Makar with this goal. I really thought for sure that was going to be Makar on the assist, but he gets credited with the goal. We end up zooming in on this one. Take a look at the skill of this guy. I love this. His head is up. He is looking where he's shooting at all points in time. You may think that's easy. It's not. Hockey dads out there tell their kids to go in the basement all the time, start stick handling with your head up. But to be honest, players look at the puck all the time. Players look at the puck in the NHL. It's a ridiculous feat to say never look at the puck. You want to be able to do it without, but there's very few players in the NHL that can do it. When I watch the Colorado Avalanche, Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar, even Mikko Rantanen, who is incredible and an elite player, looks at the puck from time to time. The only two guys I consistently see never looking at the puck at full speed is Makar and MacKinnon. So we see here that puck ends up going off Vasilevskiy, and then it takes an unfortunate bounce off Erik Cernak there. Look, I really thought that went off the Avs player, but it didn't. Fortunate bounce, and like I said at the beginning of the video, fortunate bounces occur because you're taking great shots on net and because you're doing the right thing, and that is called tying up your man in front and having guys in front of the net to bang the garbage home. Eventually, the dam's going to break and pucks are going to go in. When it's a tie game, shot counts don't matter. Now we're going to talk about the Avs in the D zone. Take a look. You got 3 Avs down here. You end up having the puck that just moved from top to bottom here at this point in time. You got to get in proper D zone positioning on this play. It may be 35 to 25 in terms of shot counts, but it just does not matter at this point in time. It only matters with the puck going in. So now you have puck pressure here. As you have puck pressure, you need Nichushkin to bump out here and to become puck support. You need anyone or someone in the middle of the ice to do it. The confusing thing about it is your puck support guy is usually your centerman with Nathan MacKinnon. They're the guys that end up there. Wingers end up uncomfortable being this way. So what you see right here, this is actually going to be your F1 player because he's the first player on the puck. This is actually going to be your F2, and this is going to be your F3, and F2 always has to be puck support. So unfortunately, because the Colorado Avalanche are unable to get into proper D-zone positioning, the Tampa Bay Lightning get to exploit. So they move that puck up to the top. You still have that cluster in front of the net. Now at this point in time, all you're looking to do is to block shots. You go down to block that shot, you end up out of position. So this player is now out of position, and we're all going to forget about Ondrej Palat because they have control of the puck, they being the Tampa Bay Lightning. You have Mikhail Makar here, you have Nikita Nichushkin here, you got Devon Toews in the right spot, and you have Nathan MacKinnon doing what he needs to do, which is actually tying up a player here on the wide side, but you just don't want to be in this spot. And this spot is the fact that the Tampa Bay Lightning have both the opportunity to widen and lengthen this zone. You want to control them into one corner of the ice, and the Colorado Avalanche couldn't do that here in the D zone. So because they end up biting, Nichushkin ends up playing that puck, and that turns Cale Makar. Now he's your puck support. Nichushkin becomes D1, and Cale Makar actually becomes F1, if you can believe that. And it all has to do with the position of who's on the ice. So Nichushkin is going to be in that contained zone playing the defensive role. Makar is going to play the puck support role. But we end up seeing the fact that he leaves Palat open. And why? Because he's got 2 choices. But you know what? You can't stand in the middle of the ice. You actually just have to take the player that's more dangerous. Nathan MacKinnon over here is watching Nikita Kucherov, who is actually behind my head. Let me go ahead and move it so you can see. Kuch is behind my head at this point in time, and that is, I mean, you got to watch an elite player. Why? Because if you make this cross-seam pass over here to Nichushkin, that's going in the back of the net. This cross-seam pass is actually the most deadly play that Tampa Bay can make at this time. So you're making read and reacts on defense. So I really like what MacKinnon has done here. I don't think he's out of position at all because he's taken away the #1 primary scoring threat. The secondary scoring threat is actually Palat. You may ask why? It's because the angle change here on Kuemper. It's a worse angle change to go to Kucherov than it is to Palat. This is the third opportunity, which is actually a very dangerous shot as well too. So no matter what, you're either crossing the Royal Road or you're going north to south. All plays that lead from here are a 20 to 25% scoring chance. There is no good way about this. These are all going to be high percentage chances to go in the net. You just want to take away the worst chance, and that's Kucherov. They do it. They miss Palat because of the disjointed defensive zone play, and he ends up burying that one. Kuemper almost had it, but it trickles through, and that is going to be the game-winning goal. All right, we had a lot. It's Saturday morning. I'm feeling frisky. I wanted to give you a hell of a breakdown of this game. We talked about skill. We talked about tactics. We talked about a lot of different things in the D zone because D zone matters the most. We talked about shots. We talked about everything. Like I hope you have all Like I hope you've all come to see, this is one of the better hockey channels out here at breaking down these types of things. So subscribe, join us. Thanks for being here at 10K. And why don't you go ahead and watch a couple of our other videos here that aren't breakdowns. We're talking about the Oilers, we're talking about the Bruins, we're talking about the NHL news and notes this week. So go ahead, click one of those videos, and I'll catch you Sunday for Game 6 at Amalie Arena.